School Lowdown. For Ernest Boker, I'm Steve Wilson. Warren Central will be hosting Greenville Weston, a team that they've enjoyed a lot of success against in the past few years.
Well, a lot of teams have enjoyed a lot of success against Greenville Weston.
True.
As the mantra goes, they have a lot of athletes, but maybe not the best coaching, or just have never been able to put it together. Typically the bottom feeder in that region. So Warren Central on paper should get a win, but whenever you have athletes, you got to play, or all of a sudden you find yourself in a 12-7 game in the fourth quarter where one play can do you in.
Well, I know you and I have seen plenty of games in other sports with Greenville Weston, excepting of course basketball, where they're usually very good. But baseball, football, they're one of those type teams where if you don't get up on them and put the proverbial boot to the throat, they're a team that if you let them hang around, they can hurt you.
Right, like I said, you never want to be in a situation where you're in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden they find a way to break a run, and then you're down with 2 minutes left, and you got to make a drive yourself. So this is a team that I think Warren Central would want to come out, put the boots to early, take care of business, hopefully play some people in the second half, and at least keep a couple of scores separation there, where even if Greenville plays their best game, they're not going to be in a game here.
The biggest matchup that jumps out at me is Greenville Weston's defense, which is giving up an average of 29.4 points per game, versus WC's rapidly improving offense, which now has added the vertical passing component to an already solid running game.
Right. You hope this is a breakout week for Warren Central. They've struggled a little bit here and there, getting better. And with their defense too, if Warren Central can just put 20 points a game up, they're going to beat a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. Their defense is good enough where they're not going to give up very many. So if you score, we said it before, you score 17 and give up 14, you win. So you don't have to have the best offense, you just need a good enough offense, and hopefully this is a game where Warren Central can put some points on the board, get a little confidence going into next week's huge game at Madison Central.
Porter's Chapel will be hosting Riverfield in basically a do-or-die game, or at least a major game for getting some much-needed points in the PowerPoints poll.
Right. Without going into breaking it down, I think we'd need a whiteboard back here to break down all the math. But the way the MAI system works, you get points for beating teams, you get points for beating better teams, you get points for beating teams in higher classifications. And all of those things apply to their opponent this week, Riverfield. They're a 2A team that's a 5-1 team. Will probably end up winning 7 or 8 games. So if PCA can come in and get a win here, it's really going to help them. They're currently 7th out of the teams that are wild card eligible right now, the teams that aren't in the top 2 in their division. So they need a win to move up. If a loss would really probably end their hopes. But looking at this week, and they play Benton Academy, which is a 1A team, but they're also 5-1. So they have a couple of chances here to move up those rankings and hopefully help themselves.
Well, even if that doesn't work out, it's also a chance for Jonah Masterson to continue to kind of get into the record books. I think he's 27 yards away from third place on the all-time passing list in the county.
Yes, he's been one of the best we've seen in a while. Over 4,000 yards on his career now. Got the PCA school record. Probably won't get the county record. I think he needs close to 2,000 yards for that. So with only 3 or 4 games left, that's probably a little bit out of reach. But certainly he's been one of the better ones we've seen in the history of Warren County, at least statistically wise.
Well, St. Aloysius will be making the trip up to Mountain Bayou to play JFK. Another big game for first place for the Flashes.
Right, and a lot of these games are going to be that way early in the year until it kind of sorts itself out. But still one of only 2 of the 3 teams in Region 2 1A that are undefeated, along with Greenville, St. Joe. So St. Al really has a chance to really almost put a hammerlock on this thing early, and at least get the inside track to a playoff spot if they can beat one of the teams that's also undefeated.
Well, the biggest thing that jumps out at me from what Coach B.J. Smithhart told you was this might be the best team that they've seen so far besides Cathedral.
Right, and in the region, it's hard to judge. They really have had to kind of feel this thing out as they go along. Not really familiar with a lot of the teams. Broad Street coming in thought they were a lot better than they looked. Certainly last week, they really didn't look very good. St. Al ran all over them, But the way St. Al's playing right now, they look like the best team in the region. They look like they could be a juggernaut and really almost run away with this thing. They've outscored their 3 region opponents in the first 3 quarters, 107-6. So really, when you look at that, the only time they're getting scored on is when the backups and the younger guys come in and kind of give up some garbage time touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Well, the thing that really jumps out at me about St. Al that are the marks of a good team, they run the ball. They're not going to do a lot of gimmickry. They're coming right at you. You know what they're going to do. You know what's coming. And they're just like, okay, you try to stop it.
Right.
Their defense forces a ton of turnovers, and they're tough against the run. And if you can do those things in Class 1A football, you're going to have a really good season.
Right, especially in this region where it looks like a lot of the teams like to run the ball. There's not a lot of spread teams. There's not a lot of teams that have a great quarterback. Although St. Al's shown that they can defend the pass when they played Cathedral. So Cathedral's averaging 50 points a game, except St. Al held them to 17, and really 10 if you take out an interception return for a touchdown. So, St. Al's looking, like I said, they're looking like they could run away with this thing. Greenville St. Joe's kind of a mystery. They're also on 2-0 in the region. And they play each other the last game of the season. So they could be on a collision course there for that November game.
Well, Vicksburg will be continuing their region slate hosting Germantown, one of the many heads of the Hydra that is Madison Central.
Right, they split off a couple of years ago from Madison, just like Ridgeland, who's also in Vicksburg's region. We'll see them in a couple of weeks. Just another good program that spawned out of that Madison Central bloodline there, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, Coach DeVorce Johnson made a bet with his senior class. He said if they can come out with a win against Germantown, they can shave his head, they can shave his beard, and they can shave his mustache.
Always good to motivate your guys that way. Give them a little fun thing to look forward to.
But the biggest thing that jumps out at me is, and it's kind of going along with the progress that he's made with this Gator program, is you want to play in these big games that have postseason ramifications. And really, the Gators have not played in these kind of games in many years.
Right, it's been 5 years, 2008, since they were playing for any kind of stakes, really. Other than maybe if you want to count the Warren Central rivalry each year.
This is just bragging rights.
Right. They 2011, they kind of had a little bit of a playoff run going toward the end, lost out the last game of the year. So a little bit then, but a lot of the roster has turned over completely since then. So, a lot of these current Gators certainly, unless they played in something in junior high, really have not played in this big of a game for playoff positioning like they are right now.
Well, Coach Johnson told me he wants to have a big game atmosphere at the Swamp. He wants to bring back that old saying that you go down into the swamp, it's hot and dangerous. Well, they're going to have a blackout night, and he wants the fans to really pack the stands. And I think if they can get that big game atmosphere and contain what's a pretty good Germantown team, I think they got a good chance here.
Right. That's a lot of it. Is you don't want to look up and be trying to play your best, and you got 200 people cheering you on. That's depressing. So if you can pack the stands, get that crowd going. I mean, it just adds so much to the game, so much life to your team. So hopefully they can, like you said, pack the stands and get that electricity going through the stadium.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of High School Lowdown. For Ernest Boker, I'm Steve Wilson. Be sure to check out all the happenings at VicksburgPost.com, and also follow us for Friday night scoring updates on our Twitter feed at Vicks Post Sports. That's